Welcome back to the Adobe Photoshop CS5 for Architecture. Now, one of the most common ways of selecting colour is through the colour picker here. So I'm going to go over to my colour picker here, click on that, and you can see it will open up a colour picker in which if I drag my pointer through there, I get a whole series of millions of different color selections, and the slider here allows me to adjust the hue. So here I go into the blues. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that color. I'm going to go OK. Hang on a sec. The actual color itself is not coming up as a blue, it's coming up as a grey. So if I actually tried to fill that using the paint bucket tool into that section through here, it's actually not blue at all. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Now first thing I'm going to check is the mode that I'm working in. Now there's different modalities that Photoshop works in, and these color modalities are under the pull down application image under mode, and you can see the issue straight away. We've actually generated a grayscale mode. So I'm going to have to fix this up. Now you'll notice if I go to RGB color, there's a few issues that are going to come along the way here as well. So I'm going to change to RGB color because I want to do color. But Adobe Photoshop, when it changes modes, it actually needs to flatten the image at the same time. So my layer designations through here are going to be lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten the image. Okay, so now you can see I've got a nice blue color. So I know that I'm working with color now. If I go Control 0 and expand to the extents, I'm going to try and recover the layering. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool. Going to select this first image here, going to copy it, shortcut Control C or Command C on a Mac, and then just Control V to paste it back into place. I'm going to do that with the others, with the lower level plan, copy, oops. You can see what's happened there is because I've selected the layer 1, and in fact the copying area is actually invisible. So let's turn back on the background, turn off layer 1, make background the active layer. Now it should work. So if I go copy and paste, go back to the background layer, go copy and paste. Now really the only loss that I have is the fact that the background layer and the foreground layer of this section have been collapsed back into one, but at this current stage I'm not really too worried about that. So I'm going to turn off all of the other layers, and you can see the image that I copied from in the background still has those original drawings in it. So as a last thing I'm going to pull a marquee over that and just clear that. So I'm going to hit my delete key. It's asking me if I want to fill that area with a background color. Yes, I do. Okay. So I've got a clear background. I'm going to stop that selection, going Control D. Turn the layers back on. And so not much is lost. I'm going to rename my layers so that I can orientate through them easier. This is ground level and layer 1 level 1 plan. Okay, so now we're back to I guess where we started from. Now I'm going to zoom in to that water tank again. Select a color of water, although we know that water is clear. I'm going to overlook that because for this reason of the graphic we're going to make it blue. So in the section layer, I'm just going to dump the blue into there. Now be careful that you select the proper layer that you want to fill into, because if I undo that, Control Z, say if I had the ground layer highlighted and I tried to put that blue fill in there, what's going to happen? It's actually going to fill the screen. Control 0. So that's not the effect we want. So if we go undo, Control Z, let's zoom back into where the tank is, go to section, get our paint bucket tool, fill that, and there you go. Now if we look, double click on that color picker tool, you notice we've also got other ways of picking colors. There's a series of color libraries. Now these are standard color selection charts that work a little bit like paint charts that you get at your local hardware store when you're buying paint. So you can get these color swatches printed out, and they correspond with the color swatches, their designations in the different libraries. Now the reason why you would use these is if you're doing a slightly more professional presentation, you want to be able to control the look of the color very precisely. And if you select a Pantone color and you look at the Pantone color swatch, the bureau will be able to match the color to the swatch perfectly, despite the fact that it would look slightly different on the screen. Now, there's a whole series of predefined swatches in the panel over on the swatches here as well. And when we hover over the different colors, it gives us the eyedropper, and we can select different colors. Now, if you notice over in the color, active color wheel over through here, or active color window, sorry, the tool, it changes when we select different colors. Now, the final color selector option I'm going to show you requires that I open another file. Now, in the exercise, as you can see, here's a tree for color picker. So I'm going to select that. Now, sometimes to get contextually specific colors, it's good to sort of find a color from nature, photograph it, and then choose from that to make your color selection. I'm going to go to the deck through here. Now I want quite a nice sort of grey or slightly weathered look to the deck through here. So I'm going to go to my tree for color picker, and I'm going to pick a nice sort of grey, sort of eucalyptus color. Now up on the left here in the toolbar, you can see there's an eyedropper tool. Now I'm going to select that. Now if you look in the control panel through the top here, there's a series of pull downs. Now by default it probably is on this point sample, in which case every time I pull the eyedropper on top there, it's selecting the pixel exactly underneath that eyedropper. Now sometimes that sort of precision is a little bit frustrating, because you'll get a mix of colours that doesn't really look like the colour that you're trying to aim for. It's probably better when you're using the colour picker to open the average, and what it will do is if we go either 5x5 or 11x11 pixel average and we select the colour, it's actually picking the colour from a slightly larger area and averaging that out. Now there's another function on the control panel through here that shows sampling ring. Now that's currently grayed out. The sampling ring is actually quite a handy tool, but by default it would often be deactivated. Now I actually like activating that, so I'm going to show you how to activate it. Now again, this is activated from the preferences, going to go into General. Now, the preference is in Performance, and what it is, it's this OpenGL drawing. Now again, this will slow down the performance of the machine, but it's quite a neat tool. So I'm going to click on that, go OK. What I'm actually going to have to do to show that is close the Tree for Color window, open it again. I can go to Open Recent, Tree for Color Picker. Now you can see my sampling ring is active. So if I go back to my, I'm going to go back to my trunk. Now if I pull my eyedropper across the trunk, you can see that's actually quite a nice colour there. The selected colour is in the top ring. The existing colour is in the bottom half of the ring. It's quite a neat way of picking the right colour. I quite like that colour. It's slightly brown like the timber, but it's also slightly weathered. So I'm going to select that. Now if I go back to the Untitled, or to my presentation sheet, sorry, you can see that as I flick between the open files, the colour's actually still loaded up into there. So if I go to my ground level plan and fill, I get quite a nice colour there. I'm not mad keen on the way that it's filling, so I'm going to undo that, and we'll have a look at that in the next session. But just one last thing with this colour picker. If you want to actually set up almost like a series of colour swatches based on a sampling of the context, one thing that you can actually do is, if we go into the filter, we can change the appearance of the image to a more pixelated image, and we can make a very extreme pixelated image. And if we go to Mosaic, and let's sort of push the cell size up to really pixelate that image, go OK, what we actually have now is kind of like a contextually specific whole series of colour swatches, which makes it very easy to pick from. So there's a little tip for you. Now we go back to our presentation sheet. Now in the next video we're going to go through applying colour with fill using a marquee. So stick around for that, and we'll see you in the next video.